virtual reality is a buzzword which is going around the advertising industry currently. It's a big thing to talk about. This week, we were lucky enough to chat to a really exciting and young virtual reality marketing company called Virtual Umbrella in Southampton. Yeah, we were really lucky to chat to Sammy and Bertie. We're really thankful that they came on, and
what a great duo.
What a great duo. I loved having them on, and we tried virtual reality for the first time as well.
Which should be quite an interesting listening experience
yeah,
for
it will.
you guys.
Enjoy that, and here it comes.
Don't worry, I'll put a backtrack on it.
Ever wondered what it would be like to walk with dinosaurs? Yeah, me too. Or what if we told you we could take you into the future? Yeah? No? We haven't got a time machine, but what we do have is a pretty cool looking virtual reality headset right in front of me. It's quite snazzy, isn't it? Please show us, yeah. Wonderfully modelled by our guests today, who are in the world of virtual reality. Very lucky today to be joined by the wonderful Sam and Bertie. Got that right? who are part of Virtual Umbrella. Guys, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
How are you guys doing today? Good?
We're good.
Good.
We're cold, but we're alright.
Yeah, it's pretty nippy outside.
It's nippy today. Very, very nippy. But we're okay. It's not raining. So
that's a positive.
That's a plus.
It's not raining. Right, so I guess first question would be, could you describe what you do to an alien?
No.
Okay, so define the alien. Are they someone who's been observing the planet, or like a proper just like crash landed
alien? It's a free entity that has no idea about anything.
Like Kang and Kudos, but
yeah.
I really like The Simpsons.
So we provide marketing and PR services to the virtual reality industry, be that working with a software developer or a hardware manufacturer, an agency or a brand. Basically, people who are looking to do awesome things in virtual reality, we want to be a part of that and we want to help them do it.
The alien is happy with that.
The alien is happy.
So just kind of tell us the story behind Virtual Umbrella then. What was what's the path to it? How did it come about?
Oh, the journey. So Bertie and I originally started in different VR companies. I was at a gaming company and Bertie was at would you say it was a sales company, or is it more of a...
It's a software development
It was originally a software development company that does more corporate.
Yeah, so it was a company called Opposable Games, and they started by developing gamified solutions for clients. So companies like betting companies who are looking for games, and then they've now transitioned into developing virtual reality for brands.
So we were kind of equally getting the bug for VR at the same time, and this was around about where the development kits were available. So it was more about people figuring out how does it work, how do you make the content, what type of content should we be making, and then going out and showing, potential new people these like DK1s and whatnot. So at the time...
What's a DK1?
DK1 is a development kit. So, I've heard of the Oculus Rift.
Yes.
So that was basically the development version of that, which is what we used as a prototype to show the content.
It was an original one, which was really cheaply made, really, really bad quality compared to the headsets today. But it was enough to spark someone's imagination of what a completed product could be. The original Oculus Rift was a pair of ski goggles with a hacked screen into it held together with duct tape.
Right.
And that sparks imaginations, which is what's led to...
Would that be something, the earlier versions of that be something similar to like Google Cardboard?
So
those lines?
It wasn't quite as low tech as a Google Cardboard. It was still using screen technology. It was still powered by a PC. Okay. But it was, cheap and small and nowhere near as developed as it is today.
So that's kind of where we started off. And through that, where we met a lot of people, especially developers who were making the content, we kind of realised that in the positions that we were in, we weren't really helping the community grow to where it's going now and will hopefully be going in the next couple of years. So we really, really wanted to help developers be developers and let us basically jump in and do all the horrible, scary marketing stuff that people don't really want to do.
Yeah.
We decided to take on the challenge of marketing something that wasn't available yet, which is a bit of a silly thing to do. No. So it was like marketing a piece of content or a piece of hardware that you could not buy to people out there. So it was quite a difficult thing to do.
It must have been quite a difficult sell.
Yeah.
So,
Just a little bit.
So the way that a lot of people likened it was selling shampoo to bald people.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's selling a solution to a problem that doesn't exist yet.
that depends on the shampoo. I mean, if you sold a bald person a shampoo that can make his hair grow back.
Or like the German caffeine shampoo.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. It's like a coffee for your hair.
Well, I guess that's one way to really twist the metaphor. We're selling shampoo to bald people and we're trying to be the caffeine supplement that goes in it.
I like that. Let's take that as a tagline.
That's absolutely not. It's awful.
I like it. I'll secretly use it. So yeah, I think there was maybe a time or a moment or maybe a conversation where we both decided that we wanted to do our own thing. But it comes from a marketing background and I come from an events background. And then, I think it was one crazy night you came up with the name and then we made it all official with the government. And that's kind of where we started rolling. And that was nearly 2 years ago.
Oh. And how's it been over the 2 years? How's it
been crazy?
Yeah.
So it's kind of the typical, we've never started a company before. So it's kind of learning how money works and taxes work and how you employ people. How do you fire people? All that kind of like typical kind of things that we didn't have a clue about.
Yeah.
But we learned as we went along. But it's been a bit of a crazy journey, isn't it?
I think it's been an absolute roller coaster, not just in the metaphor, but in terms of it's really been up and down as well. So when we started the company, we were debating about whether or not we reach out to angel investors and try and get investment and have like a head start. And then we decided and we settled on the answer being no, and we bootstrapped it from the beginning. The only way we have made money is through creating revenue. But what this means is that we haven't had a safety net. So we've had highs that have been amazing, flying to America numerous times, being invited to conferences across the world, working with some really spectacular clients. But there have also been huge lows where we've had
baked beans.
We've lived off baked beans, or even worse, we've had absolutely zero money. There was a point last year where we were owed money from a number of clients and we were still waiting for that to come in, and we were down to our last $10 or even less than that. I think we had a £3,000 overdraft. We were on 2,996. We literally had £4 and no other money. From where it's our company, and like I said, there was no investment, there's no sort of, head start, here, you're both earning salaries straight away. All of our money is in this company. We don't take salaries. Like everything we do, we live for this company. So that's £4 between the two of us. It's £2 each. That's all we had left. And
then it turned around and it was all okay again.
Things have got like crazy tight. It's been nuts. But right now we're on a high, so
it's all good. Today's a good day.
Yeah, let's keep that one going.
I think that's like typical kind of start-up life anyway. You kind of expect the highs and lows, and a lot of people have always said to us, they were like, "Oh, you'll never make any money anyway in the first couple of like years." But then when we were starting to make any kind of money, people were like, "Oh, clearly they're doing something right." So we kind of kept us going as well, even if there were months where there was nothing in the account. It's now like, well, actually we're bringing in projects and clients which actually will be longer term. So but that's just, we are only 2, we are still very young, we're still babies.
Sometimes it hasn't even been about the financial value. Like if we think back to the time when we only had £2 each, we had no actual physical money, but in terms of the two of us as people, as professionals, I had gone from being a uni student who started a company whilst writing his dissertation. Basically, starting this company was procrastination for me. And
that's one way, isn't it, for a student?
And I'm now here owning a company at 2 years old. And Sammy is a multi-award-winning women in tech workaholic influencer who is just world-renowned for what she does. So I think it's just pretty outstanding.
It's worth it, isn't it? It's worth the pain and the tears.
So I might not have any money and I might not be eating. Check out my followers on Twitter.
Really?
No, I'm not.
You mentioned, like, obviously now your company's grown and been going for 2 years. You've had the chance to, like you said, go to America and work with a bunch of really high-profile clients. Who would you say right now in terms of VR? Who would you say is the leading sort of company that's doing the best work?
I don't know. Well, that's a difficult question, actually.
So yeah, that is an interesting one.
'Cause
I think we have different opinions on that.
Yeah, I think as well because we work in so many different. It's not just gaming anymore.
Yeah.
So I think for a long time it was just gaming content, and
Yeah.
now we work in we're doing stuff for engineering companies as well. So it's quite hard to kind of distinguish. I don't know. You answer that question.
Fine, I'll take the bullet. So, in terms of leading companies, I think one of the companies that's really pushing things forward is Google. So, they have the Google Daydream headset, which is a mobile VR. So it uses a smartphone. It currently uses the Google Pixel.
Yep.
But as part of what they're doing, they're not just focusing on the hardware. They're also creating content. They've got some really amazing pieces. They've got a piece called Pearl, which is a 360 narrative story, essentially, where you are the observer, and it's about a daughter and a father, and they're in the car together, and it's just this really beautiful story, and it's so good, in fact, that the 2D version of it, so the version that is good for a TV screen as opposed to a VR headset, is currently up for an Oscar.
Really?
So Google, a technology company, a search engine, is up for an Oscar. These guys they're really doing some cool stuff, and they're launching an artist in residency program. They've launched an artist in residence program for their VR app called Tiltbrush, which is where you can paint in virtual reality.
Okay.
So
You've got a large space, you can walk around and you can paint whatever
Is
you
it
want.
is it the one with that joystick where you sort of move it around?
yeah, so you
Okay.
can.
Yeah.
We're currently doing hand motions. You can't see this.
I couldn't do that. I'd just be worried and walk into something.
So-
Pretending to paint a masterpiece and just walk into a wall. Ow.
So you're painting in 3 different dimensions.
Yeah.
So forwards, backwards, left, right, all the way around you. You can create paintings with depth, and it's really hyperbolic as a term, but it's the first time that really the human race has been able to create art in that kind of medium. So we've had sculptures and stuff, but it's the first time that someone has been able to freely paint and do stuff in 3D.
Walk through and walk underneath and around an object, which is pretty incredible.
That blew my mind.
Mm.
I'm a little bit excited.
Just a little.
Just a little bit.
But so I think that my personal opinion is that Google they might not be the company that's most committed to
Right.
VR compared to companies like Facebook that have already paid $3 billion to acquire a VR company in order to get into the game, and who are committed to another $3 billion in the next 3-4 years, I think it is, to keep pushing this hardware and this software out there and to really get normal people using it. But I think what they're doing is they're producing software and content that feels really pure, and everything they do just makes my jaw drop.
Just very good.
I like them.
The best compliment.
I like them.
Google, if you're there, please give me a job.
Yeah, Google if you're listening.
Can we all have jobs, please?
We graduate in a few months. Touch wood.
What do you think is one of the industries, no matter what it is right now, that would benefit the most from VR?
I think education is my big kind of falling. Just because, again, actually thinking about it, Google have done a very good job in terms of getting Google Cardboards into schools. But I think when I was at school, I really struggled to learn. So I'm more of a visual learner than I am. Like, I can't do exams. Like, I freak out and I panicked. But being able to take VR into schools and be able to teach children in a different way, or tell them a story, or show them history, or take them to the trenches, all that kind of stuff, I think is a really interesting way of exploring a medium or a tool. So I think education is going to do incredibly well, and there's already companies that kind of dedicated their time and energy just to that, and it's nice to know that the schools are open to it, because obviously, you know, apparently my sisters who are, you know, sort of 14, 15, they have iPads at schools or, you know, high school or secondary schools, and they don't even write on paper anymore. Like, that blows my mind. But it's the fact that they know that technology is moving, but they're allowing that to go back into schools, which makes me quite happy. We did a recent case study with Hampshire Libraries. So we went and toured like a variety of headsets to like a select few of libraries. And it might sound quite boring because it's like, oh, yeah, libraries, but their libraries have been going downhill for like years.
Those libraries are awesome.
Yeah. Well, it depends who you are.
I love a good library.
Especially this one at Bournemouth Uni.
Yeah. But in terms of like, you know, like small community libraries, which are maybe just like a meet-up for an older generation, or parents taking their kids to somewhere they can go read a book, we use the VR tools as just showing content which is like, you know, putting a book into VR, a nice story into VR, so that people can just experience something completely different. And we found that it was the older generation that were liking it much more than the younger generation, because they were like, oh, this is so different. Like, how can we get this? So I was just like, it's quite nice to see it. So I think the kind of knowledge sharing stuff is interesting.
Why do you, just on that last point about older generations enjoying it more, why do you think that is? Do you think that's purely because they haven't grown up around tech and stuff like that?
A lot of them were more interested in how it worked than the actual content they were seeing, which I thought was quite interesting. We did have a mixed bag. We had some people that were generally like, oh, I'd never put that on my face. Why would I put a screen on my face? But then others were actually more accepting of the fact that things were moving along. And maybe that's down to their grandkids or, you know, their great-grandkids who are, you know, oh, this is happening. But I don't know if there's like a stigma around it, you know, people are thinking that older people don't actually want to look at technology in the way that we do, and I think that's when I've done case studies before, people have always said, oh, no, we're looking at this younger audience, we're looking at this audience, but in actual fact, everyone likes it. David Attenborough loves VR. Like, he absolutely loves it, and he's been a part of like a couple of different pieces now, hasn't he?
And VR loves David Attenborough.
Yeah, and VR loves David Attenborough. So
we all love David Attenborough.
Yeah, we love him.
He is the nation's granddad.
Yeah, he is.
Right, so we have a little bit of a new segment now for season 2.
Premiering today.
We like, for the first time, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce, can you make the logo bigger? I really should have done that before.
No, it works. It's fine. It's fine. Just go for it. Go for it.
Okay, so the idea is, can you take? Well, we obviously know Google are the biggest VR brand that you think.
In my opinion.
In your opinion.
Please don't crucify me.
This podcast isn't sponsored by Google. But if you'd like to.
But if you search us on Google, you can still find us.
Right. So yeah, could you take the biggest VR brand, and where would you take them next?
Ooh.
That's
Don't
interesting.
say Google.
This is a good question. I like it.
It's a very good question.
Take the biggest VR brand, and where would I take?
Where would you take them next?
In my opinion. So, in terms of the biggest VR brand for consumer awareness, it's probably the Oculus Rift still, which is Facebook's device. I think they're going down a really smart route by focusing on the social aspects. Social is obviously what Facebook does best, apart from using your data to sell advertisements. And
Nice to know you're not saying anything controversial on it.
this is just fact. How else do I get my Facebook advertising, right? I target people like you using their software. So I think where they're going with the social aspect of it, using virtual reality to link people on the other side of the world, I think that's amazing, and I think that's something that should really be focused on, especially for VR, essentially you're putting a kind of bulky headset on your face and you're completely removing the outside world. And people are really concerned because that's quite a solitary experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that by integrating these social aspects, you can start to remove that image that it has. So Mark Zuckerberg did a demonstration back in October of, I can't remember what they've called it now, but essentially Mark was there on the stage with his headset on, and he had two of his colleagues who were there in avatar form, and they were back in the office in San Francisco, I think they're in San Jose, and they were chatting, and they were avatars, and it was as if they were there. Like, obviously it's cartoony and it's an avatar, it's not realistic.
Yeah.
But because it feels like they're present, the way that your brain remembers it, so the way that your memories function, it feels like they were there. So
It's building a memory.
yeah, essentially it's building memories, social memories with people who aren't there.
Mm.
And I think that that is something magical if they can get it right, and if they can get this technology adopted by the consumer. So that's my 2 cents on it anyway. I think that that is the way that I would take the Oculus Rift. That's where I'd take it. I would really focus down on this social aspect of it and making it more human. Gaming is huge. Or I say huge. It's not huge in retrospect to the gaming industry, but VR gaming is the whole focus of the industry, or it's the central focus of the industry, and that will always be there. It's always a really immersive platform. It's great for gameplay, but I feel like that social thing is something special.
Would you say virtual reality as a concept has a sort of end goal? Is one of them maybe to experience virtual reality without the headset? Is one of them to make it so real that you can't tell the difference?
So I'm really just rattling off on this.
Yeah,
Do you want to?
you rattle. You like to rattle.
So I feel like virtual reality as an end goal is to create something similar to the Matrix,
Right.
without all the dystopia.
Yeah.
So without Agent Smith coming in there and destroying it. So if there's a book called Ready Player One, and it's about it's a dystopian novel about the future. The future is awful, but everyone lives their lives in this thing called the Oasis, and it's essentially like the Matrix. People they log in and they're there, and that's where they live their lives. And that's where I see like an end goal for virtual reality. However, unlike the Matrix, I don't see people spending all of their time in it. I see it as like a hyper-real second reality.
A getaway sort of thing.
Yeah, kind of like a getaway, but also like just another plane that we're conscious on. I'm getting like proper philosophical. So
It's getting really deep.
no, I think that real reality will is gonna be here. Everyone's still gonna function in the world we live in.
Yeah.
And you have a mixed reality, which is where you have elements of virtual reality reaching into your day-to-day life. So that's where I might be walking down the street and there are signs coming up where I can interact with. Like there might be something up here with your name on it, or your social media profile, and I can interact with that. I could like send you a poke or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, no one uses pokes anymore on Facebook, but you never know for the future. But I feel like that is probably more of a realistic end goal, is this world where we're all still here. I'm still sat in front of you two, but I might be wearing a pair of glasses, or I might have like a lens that just covers like part of my eyes, where it adds in additional information to supplement the real world.
Right.
I think that's more of a likely solution, especially in the next coming years. Like, I think that's where obviously everyone's getting obviously excited about VR and AR and mix and all these RRRs on the end. I think we are, well, we were talking about the other day, but I think that's kind of more of a reachable goal right now. Like having something layered on top of everything that we can interact with. Like that film. Is it Hyper Realities?
Yeah.
That little short film?
Great film. Check it out on Vimeo.
Yeah.
Not a sponsor.
Yeah, not a sponsor.
I'm going to the Black Mirror.
Yeah, I just kept thinking of Black Mirror.
Yeah.
It's such a good
Sort of
show.
block people. Can't see you anymore.
Yeah.
Just a grey shape.
So that's exactly so augmented reality is where additional elements overlay on top of the world. So like the Google Glass, for example, or Pokemon Go is a really sort of basic example of augmented reality. Being able to see the real world, but something on top of it.
Yeah.
In my definition, mixed reality is where those things that are overlaid on top of the world can also interact with the world, or they react to the world.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, like I was saying before, with a hologram above you with your social profiles and stuff, but like I can interact with that whilst I'm also interacting with you.
Okay.
And then it might react to you. So like as you move, it might follow you behind you. It might follow you rather than sticking with me in my
Very
overlay.
scary.
Yeah, it's essentially like
you've only got 3 stars, man. You can't talk to you unless you're a 4.
yeah, exactly, Black Mirror, right?
You want to freak yourself out, go and watch
You
Black
can't
Mirror.
sit with
This
us.
is blowing my mind. Literally, the possibilities of all of it. It's just like
It's strange because I think a lot of the stuff, if you can think if you can think about an idea and if you can think of how it can be practical, then it probably will be one day.
Yeah.
And it's scary to, especially when you watch shows like Black Mirror and the stuff they do on that. Surely some of the stuff they do, although maybe completely illegal in like our normal society, might actually be possible
Yeah.
right now. And it's ridiculous to think of that.
I think it's the way that you go forward with the future. So I think those that work in the industry, especially ourselves, have a huge responsibility to make sure it goes down the right path, because it could completely overtake everything. We could be sat in a corner completely wired in to an alternative world where we never step out of it again, or we're making the next stages of our kind of day-to-day lives where things are just helping us along the way, not something that needs to replace the current world that we're in. I'd be great to be able to flick up Google just here and search a couple of things, get my train times up, quickly check Twitter without getting my phone out or anything like that, or having to get my laptop out, or be able to access data from the cloud quite easily with just a look. That stuff is the kind of where I think it's going, but you have to have a kind of set kind of moral ground and kind of be, sensible with it. But again, that depends on who decides on that. And I think as a community, we're working towards a good path, not a bad path, hopefully. Would you agree? We're on a good path?
You'd hope so. It's the same as like the whole artificial intelligence debate.
Yeah.
It comes down to there's so much we can do, but how much should we do? When do we really want to create Skynet? I mean, someone could do it. But do we want to?
Terminator could become a real thing.
Please no.
Just like
No.
just like Arnie walking around with a shotgun, just like
Well,
face blowing.
You never know.
Yeah, anyway.
and that's the end of this week on Can You Make the Logo Bigger? Oh, that was so good though. Who would have thought it worked that well?
Good. Really good. I like it.
Right. Okay. I've got a whole list of questions here that we're not really in order though. Like we've
No.
done some of the other things.
Does
Go
this
for
bit
it.
come out
Just
in the
go for it.
edit,
Just
or
do
does
that.
this just stay in?
No, this is all staying in.
Excellent.
Yeah. I might listen back to it and be like, nah.
Yeah,
This is a massive gap. We're like, hi, the end.
That'll just be it. Right, okay, so what role do you see VR playing in advertising and marketing then? We are currently advertising students, and this is a creative communities podcast for Bournemouth and beyond. So
Subscribe.
Rate us on iTunes, please.
5 stars.
Preferably. One of us give it like 4 stars or something.
Yeah, I rated our own podcast.
You can't be like big head. Will you like us on iTunes? No, I'm just kidding. What role do you see VR playing in advertising and marketing? Because it is quite
It's gaining speed now.
Yeah, it's quite a solidarity experience. So for advertising and marketers, how do we make it
On a mass scale, big scale.
shareability
isn't
is a
it?
buzzword from LinkedIn, which I took today. So
Good old shareability. if you can't take whatever you've done and share it on social, did it really happen? So for marketing and advertising, virtual reality and 360 film are really awesome tools that you can start to utilize because they're a way to immerse a user in your messaging, your core messaging. So imagine I am from an automotive brand and my goal is to make customers aware of my new car, or potential customers aware of my new car. But if I put them in a VR experience or a 360 film experience with a headset on, they have no distractions. They have the only thing they can focus on is what I am showing them until they take the headset off. It's not like a TV advert where I can look down at my phone, or a pre-roll advert on YouTube where I wait 5 seconds and I hit the skip button, or I install ad blocker because I'm not a heathen. I think that immersive aspect is something that is really essential, and it's a really exciting new way to look at things. However, on the flip side, you've also got this issue that a lot of agencies have started to deal with, where they're seeing VR as the new thing, the gimmick, and they're just shoehorning any brand or any idea into VR or 360 film. I think that just like all advertising and all marketing, really, it comes down to that core message, like whatever your central focus is. So whether it's your values, whether it's the brand proposition, whether it's even something like we're better than this other company, I think you need to basically create your normal strategy and see VR as another medium. So rather than saying, okay, we're going to create an advert, or not even that, sorry, we've got this as our strategy, as our core messaging. We're going to dish things out on social, TV commercial, print. We're going to use influencer marketing. And then it might be, this concept would really work as an immersive piece as well. Mm-hmm. So it might really work as a 360-degree film, or it might work as a virtual reality experience, not just one where they sit down, they look around in 360 and they're just rooted in their chair, but one where they can start to interact with objects. So a good example of this one is for Fantastic Beasts, the new Harry Potter film that came out. A production company called Framestore, using Google Daydream's VR headset. They had the controller which comes with the Daydream. And you hold it in one hand and it tracks your movements, like your whole hand movements, up, down, left, right. If you twist your wrist, everything. And they turn that into your wand. And you're there. You can cast spells, and it takes you through the world of, what's his name?
Are you with me? Harry Potter.
I haven't seen it.
Newt Gingrich. No, is it?
No, Newt Gingrich is
He's a politician.
What?
He's a politician. Yeah. What's his name?
I don't know. I haven't seen the movie.
I have seen it. I can't remember. He was.
Anyway.
Newt something. We're going to edit that bit out. Anyway.
It's not Newt Scamander that you're thinking of.
Yes.
It's not him. No, I don't think. JK,
Anyway,
on the off chance that you're listening, I'm so sorry.
I'm not Googling. Keep talking.
Oh, I thought you were Googling it.
No, of course not.
Right.
No.
I'm going to Google it faster than you.
Can you though? It is. Oh.
Let's do the OK Google.
It sounds like such a bloody Google.
Come on, iPhone.
Have you got it yet?
Yes, but it's not loading.
Newt Scamander. It wasn't Newt Scamander.
Oh, you're
My bad.
Right.
Well, at least it wasn't Newt Gingrich, was it?
Just saying.
So where was I? Yeah, that's a really
You did that
good.
in like 10 seconds. I was struggling with my iPhone for like a minute. Like, what?
That's a really good example of immersive marketing with using virtual reality as the medium. So messaging is still, this is an amazing world. It's filled with fantastic beasts. Where do you find them? Is that a head, right?
That's what we had last time.
But that's like a really good example of where the idea came first.
Yeah.
It wasn't just bolting something into VR.
And the main difference at the moment with like advertising and marketing in VR is that if you're going to do a big branded piece, not everyone has a headset. So again, you're going to have to find different ways of getting this to your consumer. How do you get this in the hands of every person that buys your product or wants to go and watch your film, wants to buy your, I don't know, hair gel? That kind of thing is a completely other situation you have to think about. And for those that are, please don't take a picture. For those that are,
Is that going to be in 360?
Sadly not. For context, I was Snapchatting.
For those that are genuinely just making content because they think it's the next best thing, they mess up in that situation because they end up making content that doesn't even relate back to a message, or is just made, it's a 2-minute thing that's cost them too much money and they're never going to use again. So again, it's relaying that kind of information, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's a really
part
good
of what
point.
our job is.
It's
if you need help with your
distribution.
marketing.
Yeah, distribution is a really sort of focal point. The best way to get a 360 film out currently, in my opinion, is either on Facebook or through YouTube because they both have native 360-degree players now. And it comes down to that fact that it's not like everyone owns a smartphone, they can download an app. Although nowadays you really have to push someone to download an app. They don't have VR headsets. They can't just download it. It's a very, very small proportion that do. But you really need to focus on the experiential part of your brand strategy. And that should be more of a focus than whether or not we should make a VR experience.
Do you think VR will ever make it into actual film? So people walk into a theatre and just sort of standing in the middle and experiencing
It's
things
already
going on.
getting there. IMAX.
I just think that would be incredible if you just walked in and you just were in the middle of like American Sniper or something, like just getting shot at.
How rad would that be? Walking into a cinema and just like putting it.
So it's in Manchester. IMAX are bringing.
Oh, right, really?
They've brought a VR cinema to the Printworks Odeon in Manchester. Which is it's one of their biggest ones, and I haven't been there myself, but they're working with a company called Star VR who have got a headset with, for like a really nerdy point, 270 degrees field of view, so you can see
A
like
lot of degrees.
yeah you can see a lot. It's still not
It's not.
the same as like how much I can see now. Like obviously I can see up both the sides of my head and round, but it's pretty good and it's pretty high fidelity, and that's being used for cinematic level VR experiences. So they're not an hour long. They're not 2 hours long. That's the length of a film, isn't it? But they're still ridiculed to that level of quality. So they try to make them as close to cinematic quality as possible. There's a really interesting point that one of our clients, a company called Breaking Forth, they live by this ethos that when you're in VR, time feels like it's 4 times as long. So that if I'd seen a 15-minute virtual reality film, I'd have the same emotional impact as if I'd seen an hour-long 2D or 3D, like just flat film. So I feel like maybe like the VR cinemas, they don't need to have super long content to still leave users with that same kind of emotional feeling you get when you leave the cinema.
That's pretty incredible, to be fair.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Road trip to Manchester.
Why not?
I'm being serious.
Let's go now.
Let's go now.
How far is it?
It's about 4 hours on the train.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Just put on a VR headset.
It'll be fine.
Maybe
You'll be there in a couple of minutes.
It's 4 from Southampton, so it's probably
about
5, 4.5.
4.5, yeah.
4.5 from here, yeah.
We can do it. We can get there by tonight.
Let's do it. Yeah. I'm alright. I'm up for it. Should we try on this wonderful gadget in front of us?
I think you should try on this wonderful gadget.
Let's try on. Yeah, well, we've got a VR headset right here in front of us. And have you tried VR before?
No, I haven't.
I've never tried it before.
Ah.
Shall we go first?
I'll go
So-
first, yes.
It's not going to work, is it?
Bertie's going to set you up. So we're using a Gear VR, which is a mobile headset.
Is this the Samsung one?
This is So this is the headset you can buy in store.
You're not the BBC, you don't have to say that. Okay, so this is going to be really engaging for you audio listeners.
Yes.
Yeah, this is gonna be great.
Just imagine.
I'll try and commentate as I'm going through it.
Okay, I've got the headphones off, so as long as I turn the sound up, your mic should pick up quite a bit of the sound coming
Okay,
through
yeah.
the VR experience. Okay, let me just make sure it is loaded. Have you loaded?
It's put on his face right now, though.
I broke it.
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Oh no! Oh, there we go. So the issue was my phone was running out of battery and it just got sad.
Oh.
There we go. Attempt number 2. Okay, so it never broke. I was just being impatient. It was still loading.
You just weren't letting it load.
I'm an idiot. Okay, so
Ooh,
on
I
the
can hear
top,
something.
on the top here you have a focus ring.
Okay.
Same way binoculars work. If things are blurry, you
Do
can
I have
move
to take
this
off my glasses
back and
to
front.
do it?
You can keep your glasses on.
Okay.
On the right hand side here you have a touchpad. So that's just a tap to select. So if you see an option, you'd look at it. So you'd gaze
Right,
at
okay.
it. You see a little dot, and then you tap the side.
Okay.
So what you're
You
gonna
should
do?
do.
Oh,
You should.
that's
You
so
should.
cool.
You should get the camera out of my bag and video this.
So if you go,
Behind you. Oh.
There you go.
if you go eyes in first, so
So
that's it. Put your
Yeah.
eyes in, and then lift it over.
Okay. I
Try and
think
get
that's.
the sound stick.
I'm in the clouds.
So if you look around, you see a little sign that says meditate.
Yep.
So if you look at that and then tap the side.
Where would you like to relax?
Let's go. Snow Peak.
Which meditation suits your mood?
Energizing.
Would you like music?
Yeah, go on.
What music is the right fit? How are you feeling?
How are you feeling? I don't know. I'm confused.
How are you?
Sad, very happy, tired.
So what this
So
does.
I'm meditating.
So what this does now is using the heart rate sensor on the front of the Samsung S7, it can check your heart rate, and then you do the meditation, and then after the meditation it will check your heart rate again, so you can see how the meditating lowered your heart rate and made you less stressed.
That's so cool.
So there you go, you can take your hand off now.
This is actually ridiculous.
So this is guided meditation VR by the guys and girls at a company called Cubicle Ninjas, based near Chicago.
Epic name.
They're epic people as well, they're amazing.
What name?
They built our website for us.
If you check out our website, that was them.
That
That's
was
right.
them.
Do you want to mention your website as well, just in case they don't?
Oh yeah.
www, full stop, virtual umbrella, full stop, marketing.
Marketing.
There's no .co.uk or anything,
No .co.uk.
it's virtualumbrella.marketing.
Yeah, we're those weirdos that don't use .co.uk.
Because someone had already taken it. It redirects their LinkedIn page.
He looks really cool while doing it. I was going to say that.
So that's one of the most exciting things about VR is the point where the person stops.
I didn't even think to look behind me.
Yeah, they stop thinking
What?
in TV terms. They stop thinking, oh, I only face forward. They turn and they go, oh my god, there's a whole world around me.
I feel like I'm really high up in the air over mountains. Do you want to give it a go, Nabil?
I do. It looks quite exciting.
Oh,
How was it?
it's like I've been born again.
I will still go straight into it.
Yeah.
Oh.
So as soon as you put that on, that will start up again.
Ah! What? Ooh.
It's probably not very entertaining for people listening, though. Just hearing us go, oh my god, what's happening? There's stuff behind me.
I'll do my best to be entertaining. I like mountains and stuff. Oh shit, supposed to meditate.
In and out.
Oh mate.
How's it?
There's like a ray of light going across the
Yeah,
screen.
there's like a weird prism in the sky.
Is that God? It's the pot of gold in the rainbow. Ah!
Churches might start taking on this VR thing.
Well, it's just
Can you imagine? Just like you go into church and they get you put down the view and you
Yeah.
can see God.
Hello, my child.
I feel like that could be a little bit blasphemous.
It could be, yeah.
We accept all races and religions at life's pitch.
But no, maybe if they just portrayed God as like a ray of light or something,
Yeah.
then they wouldn't upset anyone, would they?
Wow,
Isn't that incredible?
that was
Do you feel at peace?
dude.
Quite
Did you
tired,
get-
actually.
Did you get loads of pictures of me just looking really
I just got a video of you looking behind and going, oh shit.
perfect? Just throw.
So how was your first time in VR?
It was really good. It's really interesting.
We're going to start talking about our first time now.
Yeah.
It's a Thursday afternoon.
Pre-watershed, but yeah, it was alright.
I would really like to see how it is for like gaming and stuff like that. Like actually, or like when you actually interact with something.
Yeah. There
Yeah.
are some great case studies and games and things out there to try.
Floating.
Sick.
I also know you quoted a tweet from someone, so
Did I?
I did. VR told me that.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
because
yeah.
my phone was plugged in, so it still
Damn.
shows notifications.
Sneaky.
Well, it's quite nice if you're in VR because
Yeah, you
you still know if
see
an
your
email comes through and
notifications
stuff.
come through.
Yeah.
At the same time, if you try and meditate, it's probably not what you want to see.
Yeah, it's a bit difficult.
I really like
Yeah,
it.
let's talk about meditating now. No. just kidding. Next segment of the podcast is, I should say, there's more confidence. Right, my daddy's there. Okay, all right.
In a world where
So now we're going to move on to the 1 minute briefs. So the idea behind this is there's a Twitter account called 1 minute briefs,
Mhm.
and every day the person running the Twitter account sets a brief, which we have 1 minute to do,
Mhm.
and it could be about a range of topics. I think last week it was
memes. It was memes.
A couple of days ago it was bin bags. Today it's bananas.
Is it bananas?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
However, we're going to get you two to go head to head, and we're going to
Well,
get
this just isn't fair because last time I had to go head to head with a proper creative.
Right, I'll get involved.
Yeah, let's do 3.
I'll get involved. We only have two
Have you guys heard of 1 minute briefs?
We only have 2
No,
Sharpies.
I haven't, but you
I've
have.
heard of it very briefly. I haven't followed the Twitter account. I have no preparation.
So it's just purely focusing on the idea. I mean, you follow him and you can see the ideas that come in. Some of them even are like just notes on your app, on your phone, obviously, and some of them are probably mocked up Photoshop concepts. But it's just purely by the
I don't get how people do all those designing things in 1 minute, surely.
They're really talented.
the idea comes in 1 minute.
Oh,
And
so
the
it's not about the
execution.
execution. Well,
That's
we're
fine.
adding the execution.
But how are we going to do this? Because I only have 2 Sharpies.
We'll take it in turns.
Well, you can use a pen.
It's not the
Sorry,
same.
this is-
Or that.
It's not the same.
Not the same. I can't get the. I'll give you the Sharpies. I'm a creative. We're supposed to use Sharpies.
You can use my student rep pen.
I need to get rid of all this as well.
Mm.
Revision notes.
What is a brief? Is it just bananas?
No. We're advertising VR.
Advertise how how you can promote bananas in VR.
Mm,
Right.
Ooh.
done.
Oh my god.
I've got a timer on, so I'll do it.
Alright, so what am I doing?
We don't know yet. We're waiting for a
Right,
brief.
so 1 minute to advertise VR.
However you want, with
Okay.
a picture, with words, whatever you want, and yeah. So I'll start the timer and then we'll go for 1 minute.
How's that?
Oh no, I had an idea. I forgot.
Well,
Oh, I hate that. Like when you've got an idea just under the surface and then
is it relating to drawing stuff?
it was related to the brief,
Okay.
but it's gone.
Okay, it's gone.
Shame.
Shall we go?
Shame. I want me to say it.
Shame.
Right, you ready?
All right.
Yeah, how to advertise.
Sharpies, are they ready?
3, 2, 1, go. Scribble, scribble.
That's not,
Oh,
that's not-
right.
That's not very nice.
So, we have a couple of words down, a couple of boxes. Nabil's just outlined his paper for some reason. You've only got 30 seconds left. Should I do a countdown?
Yeah, do it.
27. No, it's too far.
No, no.
Oh. One minute briefs.
Countdown clock.
7, 6,
Nah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
And technically, I gave you 39 milliseconds.
Well, it's like once you've started, you can finish. Obviously.
All right.
I can't even read mine.
No, don't hide yours.
Why am I going to go first?
Go, go, go.
Oh yeah, and if you guys want to sign the
Oh,
bottom,
should we sign it?
Oh yeah, sweet. We did.
yeah, if you want. I don't know if I'm gonna put it up, but
You can sell this as an
Mm.
idea.
One day it'll be worth millions.
Right. Come on, what are you doing?
do you want to start?
You know the idea is 1 minute brief.
Yeah, come on.
I'm writing the name.
Oh.
It's not my fault. I don't know how to spell my own name.
Do not be rude to our guests.
I'm leaving.
Nabil, go first.
Why me?
Go, go, go.
You're the host. Go first.
Okay, okay. You ready?
We're ready.
Not really.
This is it.
Go back to the future whenever you want. Yeah.
Got a
Ooh.
little
Hashtag.
hashtag VR for
Hashtag
social
VR.
media engagement.
I actually like that. Go
Like
back
it.
to the future.
Very
good.
nice.
Not
It's-
stolen from a film in any
Yeah.
way. There's a film called Back to the Future? What?
Never heard of it.
I like it. What's yours?
Cool. Right. I didn't go for a tagline or anything. I went flat out for this one.
Full design.
Advertising VR. How do we do it?
Mhm.
We create a massive VR cinema in London. We have 100 headsets in it. We invite people to come down a glorious red carpet to experience something big budget
Yeah.
that is like Hollywood level film. It might be part of like a bigger thing like Assassin's Creed, for example. We invite them in, we get them to try it, we get celebrities in, we get like Heat, the other one, the other tabloids. We get them in. We're like, look at this celebrity doing it, and then we go with the tagline: "VR sucks."
No.
With a stroke through it.
With a
Oh.
stroke through it.
Oh no, that was just me.
That's alright.
You wrote stuff down.
Yeah.
And you told me about that before we came in here.
What?
That idea.
What?
Try again. You've premeditated.
Yeah,
Flip
go,
over.
go, go.
Go again while Sammy tells us her idea.
You've got 1 minute.
No, we do.
Yep.
I never told you.
Yeah, but now you've been rumbled. Do
Yeah,
something
you-
original.
You're trying to get me in trouble.
See, I'm just trying to be honest. I'm just making it a level
Trying
playing
to get me in
field.
trouble here.
Okay, mine's probably very similar to this one, and I draw a house instead of anything. My idea is pop up VR stands in shopping malls and train stations to let the general public try VR for the first time, but also have access to buy products on the stands so that they'll actually be able to take it home. There you go.
I think
Yeah, but it's no Back to the Future reference.
I know, yours wins,
I think-
definitely.
Where's the social media engagement?
Oh, no, no.
Oh, wait a sec.
Hey!
There we go. I'm at a hashtag.
God damn it.
Hashtag VR cinema. Now, I think we, obviously from where we work in the industry, we're
Yeah.
very focused on the issue being that consumers haven't tried it.
Mhm.
Or that there's like research saying that I think it's like less than 10% of surveyed consumers have even tried a VR headset on. So I think that's why both of our examples are really
Very
focused
similar.
on getting them on people's heads. Whereas you're pure.
Yeah, you're pure, very pure.
Yeah,
Oh,
you're,
so-
you've gone for something
If only
without
you-
having this kind of twisted mentality
Yeah.
of being in the industry.
If only you knew. I don't know. I'll pick a winner then.
I think
Oh, it's not
I
up to
think
me.
yours-
It's up to all of you.
I think yours wins.
Oh, smooth. Smooth.
It's up to all the people listening.
Oh, I love that.
The 3 pictures will go up on
Vote
Twitter
now.
with the hashtag
VR.
VR Cinema, VR, and
Oh, I'll just put one on here.
Put a hashtag.
Pop up store.
hashtag pop-up store
Or
VR thing.
VR thing.
VR thing.
So
And
what's
you guys
actually
can
going to be the
tell us which one's
hashtag
the
for
best.
all of them? We need like a group hashtag.
A collective.
Hashtag
Life's a pitch.
The VR collective.
That's already a thing. Too late.
hashtag OMB VR. I don't know.
That'll do.
Yeah?
All the acronyms. Right. I had one more question I wanted to ask you guys. How long have you two been? You've only been going for a couple of years.
Mhm.
how do you? Did you guys know each other before you started the?
Yeah, we've known each other for nearly 3 or 4 years now. 4.
I'm sick of her.
Yeah, you have to.
I was just like that. It's only been going about 5 months.
How do you find the relationship, the working and the friendship relationship? How do you find that balance?
It's easy, really. We get drunk on Fridays and just hope for the best.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking.
No, I think it's we share a flat in Southampton, and in the first year or so, things could be like really tense and difficult because you're taking your work home with you every day because your work is at home. But since we've got an office, I think having that divide, like any arguments we have, kind of stop at the door, or if they don't stop at the door, we'll end up going to the pub and just getting through it over beverages
Exactly.
of non-alcoholic variety. But I think that's
I think plus we both have a mutual understanding that this company is our baby. Like we are both passionate about it, and we're both passionate about the industry. It's not very often you get to work with somebody that is just as kind of dedicated as you are, and that's very rare to find. I think that's why we find employing people quite difficult because it's quite hard to find people that are happy to work in a startup that is always on the go and doesn't stop, and it's quite a hard thing to keep up with. Plus, we don't have money to employ people, but that's a different story.
Could you sum up your career in 3 words then?
Award-winning workaholic.
That's 2 words technically.
Oh, damn it.
Even better.
VR.
award-winning VR workaholic.
Yeah, there we go. Sorted.
Mine is lots of mistakes.
Great.
I like that.
But obviously, yeah, you learn
it's
from
good,
your
yeah,
mistakes,
it's good.
and
That's a good one.
failing is good because it's the best way to learn. Is to go, fuck, I can't do that again.
Yeah, exactly.
Look how bad that turned out.
Mm-hmm.
So no, that's kind of the mantra I've lived by. I've got a blog which is where I just vent my opinions, and literally the tagline is "The life of a young and stupid entrepreneur."
Want to plug that as well?
It's
Go to his Twitter, you'll
the
find out
life
his
of it.
Twitter.
bertaroo.wordpress.com.
There you go.
Nice.
We'll link in the description.
Have you given them a chance to get their links out?
Sorry?
Have you given them a chance to get their links out?
No, have at it. Go ahead.
Oh.
Yeah, if you guys want
Promote
to
yourself.
tell the people where they can find you.
Well, Twitter is Virtual Umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
My Twitter is K_Samantha1. And what's yours?
My Twitter is Bertaroo. So BERTAROO.
Yeah. And you did the website earlier, didn't you?
We've plugged the website, but just in case, www.virtualumbrella.marketing. And the guys who made the app is Cubicle Ninjas, and that's probably www.cubicleninjas.com. I don't know. Google them.
Fitting end.
I mean, I love this episode. You guys are. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say
This is the most interesting episode.
You're
we've had
an
so far.
absolute
Really.
inspiration to us,
Aw,
to both of us,
thank
because
you.
you're exactly what we wanted. On this
We
podcast.
want to sort of do it.
Like
yeah.
you're young, you've taken the risk. You've just thought, fuck this. I'm not going to go work for someone. I'm going to do my own thing, and I'm going to. You went into something. You were brave, which is a good thing. And I'm not just saying this because they're here and I want them to like us and say nice things, but
Subscribe.
but yeah, we really enjoyed having you on.
No,
So
thanks for
thanks so
having
much.
us.
Thanks for having
Basically,
us.
do what Bertie does and start a company while you're finishing your final year.
Or don't.
This is our company. We don't need to stop.
I don't need this as a date. No.
Yeah.
It was a really dumb move. I've had so many financial issues since. My credit rating went from 999, which is the best you've got. Now the bank that I have a current account with won't allow me to have a credit card or even restructure my credit card debt
Wow.
because I'm so fucked. But I wouldn't trade it for the world because everything that we've done has been amazing. And I guess one day I'll dig myself out of this hole.
One day.
One day.
One day.
Oh, another good point. Keep this
Yeah.
one in. When you're a startup, you make no money. Making no money means you don't pay your student loans back. You don't eat, but
That's clever. That's a good idea.
It's a good idea. It's a good idea. Don't pay them back.
I'll just move back home. Can't pay it back if I'm not earning.
Fair enough.
Alright. Thank you for listening. Thank you guys for coming in. Thank you for doing what you do every week
What's up?
and just everything.
Just being me.
Just being you, man. Thanks.
Sick.
thanks for bringing the laptop.
Yeah, and the camera, and yeah, I'm just feeling all warm and fuzzy now and happy.
Oh.
Yeah, you just basically show up to these things, don't
I
you?
do,
I
I
literally do
And
everything.
just bring my charm and my personality.
Where is it?
Debatable.
Thank you.
Hey, they won't invite us back.
Oh, you said that. I thought you said that. I'm like, yeah, that's fine for them. Sadly. Ow!
Oh, I think that's a good place to end.
I'm sorry.
Not so glad I'm having you on anymore. Here comes a jingle. What? Fuck this.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Life's a Pitch. We hope you enjoyed it. If you're listening to us on SoundCloud, you can like our page and leave us a comment telling us how shit we were or how great we were. That's up to you. If you're listening to us on iTunes, please leave us a rating and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
And if you want to follow us on social media, you can like our Facebook page, which is LAP Pod. Follow us on Twitter at Life's a Pitch Pod. And also follow us on Instagram at Life's a Pitch Pod.
Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next week.